And
All right,
I'm gonna
first,
promote him.
we good?
And I'm working on promoting him so you can see his face.
First order of business is to accept the minutes from our December 18th regular meeting.
Second.
Any questions, discussion? All right, all those in favor, we'll roll call with Steve online. Melissa? Aye. Pete?
Aye.
Lauren?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Jay? Aye. Thank you, Carrie. Visitor comments. Is there anybody here for anything that is not on the agenda?
Yeah, I have a couple questions I'd like to raise. This is Impy calling in. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I'm wondering if there's any follow-up with what Steve was looking into about the town helping out with the cost of ferry tickets during the winter months.
Steve, do you want to give any update about how that conversation is going?
Sure. Again, can you hear me well enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So I brought the idea up. I haven't, there were a number of people that stated that there's already different services available that offer that, but so I think that was kind of like trying not to be negative about it, but try to state that there was some services already available. But what I think, I'll take it as a task to follow back with those, at least the two individuals who stated that. I would like to execute on something of that nature. So the answer is, let me follow back, see if I can coordinate either what's already existing, or do we want to bring it under a more formal program? Because obviously the ferry service is not going to monitor that. Janet's not going to really be able to monitor that. So we got to figure out, how we set it up. So I will take that as an action item.
Thank you. And my other question is Janet there tonight?
No, unfortunately, she's out sick tonight.
Oh dear. That's not good to hear. Well, I won't raise any other questions. That's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have something to bring up that's not on the agenda? All right, well then, should we get to the ferry service update, which is, I imagine, why a number of people are here today. So just an update about some things that have happened since we met 2 weeks ago. First, a big thank you to Lauren, who has just developed a really nice FAQ sheet about sort of where things stand now, and about the issue, which is a nice piece to be able to share with legislators, with our concerns, with media folks. So hopefully that will be really helpful in just having something easy that we can point folks to, and we can update it as we learn more about the issue. Lauren and Janet and I did have a conversation with Kristen Collins, our town attorney, Tuesday, was it? Who had a couple of suggestions for us at this point and wanted to follow up after a meeting that happened today, which I'll talk about in a minute too. She really encouraged us to work on a PR campaign in the immediate. Her firm does have a PR arm, and so can be really helpful. She was going to reach out to her colleague to start that conversation. She also indicated that it would be incredibly helpful. I know that we've had a lot of concerns expressed and documented in our minutes, but that as we hear concerns from citizens, that we ask for people to send a letter to the town, or, it could be a written letter or an email, just, it will be helpful for us to be able to have a count of the number of concerns, that we are hearing from citizens on this issue. It can help us make sure that we have stories to feed into the PR campaign, and it will help, give us numbers as we build our case.
Who do they go to in the town?
I would send them to Janet.
Okay.
Yep. From the legal work that she has done so far, we did not see that at this point we had anything that it made sense to take any kind of legal action on yet. But one of the things that we need to pay attention to is, how this decision-making process goes as we go through the rulemaking process, and understand if become a time when any kind of legal action makes sense. She also suggested that we request the grant language and the formal grant agreements for the awards that were made that are helping to fund the new ferry. So I know Janet was going to reach out and request those documents, because emergency services were mentioned a number of times in those documents, and are now, now they're not. So is there anything else you'd add from our conversation with Kristen?
No, you did a nice job of covering it.
So we will have another meeting with her probably early next week. And then today, the DOT held a meeting where they invited our legislators, town managers, and select board to attend to present on this issue. I went in Rockland, and Janet participated online. We were invited one person in person and one person online. That was our quota. There were representatives from all of the islands that are impacted, which was great, and a number of legislators. Mike Ray, who is our representative, was there, which was great. And although they were not invited, we did let the reporters from Midcoast Villager and Bangor Daily News, who covered this issue before, know that this meeting was happening, and they both were also in attendance, which was encouraging. Beyond that, it was very disappointing. Commissioner Van Note was there. He, they presented the statistics about ferry cancellations and compensation that had been presented to the Ferry Service Advisory Board, I think in October, they said, that has been covered in the outgoing news. He said, basically, this is a decision that we are working to implement. We don't expect the islands to like it.
Was our town attorney on
She was not at that meeting.
Who was the governing body of the meeting?
Department of Transportation.
Just the DOT,
Yep.
not the other interest in the state?
I mean, the legislators were there and there to ask questions and to get information. Closure, which is the deadline for submitting bills in this legislative session, is January 10th. And so another avenue that we need to pursue quickly, I mean, it's January 10th. There's always, if there's an emergency, you can slide things in at different times, but ideally, if we could have someone willing to put in a bill to stop this at the legislature. There were a number of legislators there and the senator. They all asked good questions. I know Mike Ray, wants to meet next week to talk through things. I know that he and, Anne, I don't remember her last name, she's the representative, for Rockland and Owl's Head. Okay, yep. Are putting in a bill, but it is more to help with, I think, recruitment and training programs to encourage, to make it easier to recruit folks. He specifically said he was not, as a freshman in the legislature, he was not willing to put in a bill to try to stop this. I have reached out to Chip Curry. I have not heard back from him, and he was not at the meeting. So I will follow up by phone with him probably tomorrow to see where he stands, because he's been there longer and, you know, may feel like he has more political, he might be willing to go to bat to us politically. Go ahead.
I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but this is coming from another area of the state. Because DOT is not the only people doing this. I work with multiple state agencies, and this is across the board. I don't know where this is coming from, but there's a lot of empowerment going on. And I think that we really need to find out where that comes from in order to combat this, because this is kind of weird.
Brad,
I mean,
what do you
it's-
mean by this?
What's that?
What do you mean by this is?
What we're going through with DOT right now about moving.
But I
the ferry
mean,
boat.
if it's not just, what's the broader? What other things, examples are you talking about?
Going on,
Spearheading it, kind of?
no, it's going on the EMS level, it's going on the
It,
public
it
safety
being
level.
that
They're hard charging,
Okay.
they're not listening, and they're just doing what they wanna do. And I personally, and I don't care who this is, I don't personally have any trust in legislators helping us. And that's why I'm saying we might have to go to another level, because we gotta find out where this is coming from, because we're talking to ourselves. This is coming from another area, and that's all I'm gonna say. I don't know where, I have no absolute clue, but there's an empowerment thing going on with these departments, and they're not listening to anybody.
No, I mean, that was the frustrating thing today. I mean, it's clear that, we are going to get loud and, we'll see.
I'll go up.
Right.
You can send me up, I would be happy to do it, and I would go any day you want me to go.
well, I think what Shay mentioned, well, I'm sorry, you go ahead and finish and then I'll add to it if there's something I can add to. Because you were gonna go into the committee, right?
Oh, yes, so we do have some appointments to, reenact the Emergency Ferry Service Task Force. I'm hoping that the first meeting of that group will be, next Wednesday, at 4:30 or 5. I'm not sure what time Janet set for that. And that will be a public meeting, so we will need as many hands as, we'll need voices, and happy to have people come and participate and help us in this effort. And I think that is all I can think of at this moment. Does anybody else have any questions?
Shay, was there, any discussion with the attorney about, town petition? Getting all residents to sign a petition to submit it to the governor and to the legislators to say, stop this nonsense? Because that's power.
Yeah, it came up in the conversation and she thought that was a good idea. Letter writing, even more so that we could hear the specific harm that's done, not just signatures on a page. That came up at a Democratic meeting too, the idea of a petition, and I think there's some effort, parallel efforts going around this. I think what, more than anything, after the committee meets, is to coordinate these things, so that we have, if we're gonna have a petition drive, we have a big petition drive. If we're gonna have a letter writing campaign, we know where the letters need to go. We make sure that people know wide and far what we're asking them to do, and even making suggestions about what the content might be. And as many different angles as we possibly can. I mean, you know, there's
And
so
the
many
attorney
ways in which.
needs to advise us
Right.
on every move we make, because we don't wanna make a wrong move.
Exactly.
But we, you know how I feel, but anyways, I just,
Typically petitions are, I mean, from my experience, are generated through the legal arm. And then they're signed. I mean, they have all your facts, right? Your FAQ document that you have. And it's written into a legal document. And then every citizen of this town, this island signs it, everyone. And then that's power. When you have 650 or 700 residents that are all saying, no, enough of this nonsense, and here's the reasons why. The
Yeah,
federal
and-
grant was applied via, using a medical excuses, and then it was completely just ignored.
And I think even more than having one island have a petition,
All of them. Right.
coordinate with all the islands so that it all follows the same process. And makes it pretty hard for them to, ignore it.
Right, and then you have at least the basis for legal action after. If the continued nonsense continues, then you can push the legislature for bills to stop it.
Steve, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I said this about 2 months ago. In my opinion, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to join this group and be a part of it, was because I work in this environment. If we don't get the islands together and agree to hire a lobbyist to, and, retain them for probably 6-month period to put together the argument, which is now we're almost at the too late for this, but to take this, to the governor's office and to the legislature and along with the PR is the second best way to do this. We're just not going to get any reaction because unless you shine a spotlight on individuals in the government, they would prefer not to make a decision than make a bad decision. And the only way it's a bad decision if it's highlighted and people see what's going on. So it really, the letter writing, all that, in my opinion, makes you feel good, but it's not going to get where we need to be. We need to go and be aggressive and probably put in our, if there's 3 or 4 islands, whatever, at least 2 of the main ones, you appropriate 30,000 each. You can retain a good, Democratic lobbyist for that and and at least we can take this to the lobbyists initially and present our case and see what their opinion is and what the winnability is of the argument before you spend any money. But someone who will take it on if they feel they can produce a different outcome is what we need to do, because I've listened to this now for 6 months and you guys have been involved for years on this and they're just blowing past everybody. So my opinion is we need to coordinate the letter writing and everything. I love the PR stuff probably need to spend some money there, but it really takes lobbyists to get a change in the direction at this point. So
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Yeah, and I know that Kristen was going to talk to the folks in her firm to understand what she would recommend, if there was somebody within her firm she would recommend, or if she has somebody else that she thinks would be better. I mean, she was speaking to us from her in-laws' house, in the holidays, which was very nice for her to make the time for us while she was off. I'm off. I'm obviously flying out of town for a week, but I will for the next meeting, I'll have a list of the top 2 or 3 companies. I'll interview them quickly and have at least 1 or 2 companies that we can talk to. If you guys think it's worth doing, I don't want to do this just because it's my idea. If you all think it's an option, then let's.
Steve, go for it. I think, at this point in time, we want to apply pressure in every way we can. And so, yes, please, that's my vote anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I would want to make sure that we have, that we are tying Kristen into it. But I think if you have contacts in that area, it would be great to start having conversations to understand what the options are.
Okay. Pete, you agree?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so I'll go ahead and Melissa, is
Steve
she over
says-
there? The camera doesn't move. I
Oh,
can't. see.
yeah, she is. I was like, I gave a thumbs up. You're good.
Steve, can you clarify what kind of companies you're talking about?
Lobbyist,
Thank
state
you.
lobbyist.
So a couple other data points that I, realized I didn't mention is, the only concrete piece of information he provided today is that he's thinking time frame. He imagines this change happening within 2 to 3 years.
Who's he?
Commissioner Van Note. He thought 2 years, but he did say something like, for Islesboro, it may be 3 to coincide with when the new boat gets here. Although I did also email Mackenzie, who is the project manager for the, terminal rebuild, and, she clarified that the new ferry would be able to stay overnight because it would be a trickle charger. We won't have the fast charger, but we can keep the ferry over. The ferry can stay over here, with the current plan.
On a practical note, has anyone from BOT or the other faction commented upon the ferry schedule and how that would have been affected if the boat was to start on the mainland? Who's going first? I mean, are we adding another run? Are we deleting a run? I haven't heard any of that.
I
It's
asked-
gonna disrupt everyone.
I asked that question, and it sounds basically like that's one of the things that they'll talk about in the next 2 years.
But how do they deal with people who have jobs on the mainland or work on the
Right.
island?
Right.
They don't care.
They,
They don't care. And I think that has to be represented
Yep.
very clearly.
Yep.
It's interesting that she said, the manager said that there's no plans in the plans that I've seen, there was nothing about a trickle charger on Hillsborough.
yeah, which is why I specifically went and I asked, I want to see this in writing. Yes, there is, it is possible. Yep.
Is there a chance to put a legal fund together? Because I know that if we wanted, like we did when we fought the ferry rates, if we was to tell the citizenship and the taxpayers of Islesboro that we're on again for another war and we need legal funds, people of every shape, size and dimension would be donating, whether it's $2 or $1,000. And so that we ensure we have the money and it doesn't have to come out of taxes to fight this. Because this is gonna be long, this is gonna be something long. And I don't know what they raised last time, but I heard it was a pretty good amount. Is if people, this might be something for Carrie to put out in constant contact. If people wanna donate money, Arch isn't here, so I'm gonna do it for him. If people wanna donate money towards this legal fund to fight the ferry being on the other side, where can they send their check to? Do they make it out to the town of Islesboro and put legal fund in the memo? Or can't they do that yet until the board makes a motion to have a legal fund?
Right. It's a good question. I'd like to ask Janet about it. And, maybe it's something that we can bring to the committee and we can, maybe move on that in our next meeting. If that makes sense.
We wanna help.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to be part of it.
I think, a little bit more work to make sure that there's a legal basis. So, before we ask people to donate funds for a legal challenge, is there something legal that we can challenge? That's,
You can.
Or as long, if people are interested in helping to pay for a lobbyist, that,
Yeah.
is another,
Yeah.
so.
good
We
point.
just need to be, I would feel more comfortable asking when I feel like we have a little bit of package of like, here's our action plan. I don't, we don't need to like spell it out in great detail, but I'd like to feel like we're saying, here's what we're asking you to do. We want you to sign a petition.
Well,
Here's how your money can make a
so
difference.
let me ask you a question. Let's put a thing in the Bangor Daily News and in the Portland Press Herald that says, how would you feel if the main turnpike got shut down after 5 PM? And then get some honest answers. Last time I played with 295, this time let's go for the gusto and get the spine. 95, what happens? All that traffic's coming up Route 1, out Route 2, whatever. This is something that's bigger. We are gonna fight this. We need to fight this regardless of whether a lawyer says we have a right to or not. This is about our rights. This is about our right to public transport.
No, I understand that, but I also don't, it doesn't necessarily make sense to spend money on a lawyer if a lawyer is saying, I'm going to lose this
You can
case.
find the right lawyer.
There's always one.
Right?
A lot.
Yep, Carl.
I want to support Fred's first comment, and I think we need to go to the state level hierarchy that's already in place. And I found a document that's with the Emergency Operations Plan, Emergency Support Function. There's an ESF, Emergency Support Function document that's dated 7/8/2016. My guess is they're working on a new one. And who is this state level committee that's working on it? It does cite ferries in our statewide emergency plan. So we already have all this hierarchy. We don't have to recreate it. It already exists in the state of Maine. We need to have linkage to the emergency operating plan and the people writing this new plan.
Is that something
And-
that you'd be able to email me a link to?
Yeah, I'll send that to you. And then the second part of that is just the whole purpose of the emergency support function is transportation provides a framework for coordination and cooperation across state agencies regarding transportation needs, issues, and activities before, during, and after a disaster, planned event, blah, blah, blah. It covers all of what we're talking about. It's already in place. It's in the state of Maine. We have the state of Maine backing our ferry. We don't need to recreate the wheel. We don't need to pay lawyers to do it. It's in our state documents, but we need people connection.
Somebody should read it.
We need somebody
Yeah, well, I
to-
think that's
connect
where
with-
the more documents and language that we can find, that what Kristen said is it's not defined in the state statute. So if we can find other areas where it is defined that helps build our case, then we have something where we can develop stronger legal standing to fight against on the legal front.
Yes, yeah, I think this is state statute. This is on maine.gov. This is one of their, we just need to understand Maine's hierarchy.
Yeah. No, if you want to
Emergency.
send it, I'm happy to look at it and I'm happy to send it along to Kristen.
Yeah.
Michael?
The funding for this ferry thing, $16.5 million, is federal money that came from the Federal Department of Transportation. It's kind of unfortunate that the administration's about to change, but I think we should be directing some comments to Pete Buttigieg. Yeah. Yes, to the Secretary of Transportation. The current one was on TV bragging about the Islesboro ferry. I think we could go to the, write a petition, like you're saying, get everybody on Islesboro to sign it, and yes, all the other island communities as well. But just on Islesboro, since that was featured on a television broadcast with the Secretary of Transportation, maybe what we need is for people on Islesboro to hold this thing up in front of a TV camera and say, this is going to the federal government where it came from. And hopefully it's supported by the application, which would be great to see.
Yeah.
But if the application says emergency medical service is being provided by part of this grant, and we're saying, what happened? You're not providing the said emergency medical service.
Yeah.
Now you're getting publicity that
And that's exactly what the attorney was saying, Where are they saying one thing and they're
And they're not doing it, right?
following through?
And so, and my kind of corollary question is, what about the state representatives to the federal government? Are we talking to them at all? Because this funding is federal funding.
So there was a staff member of Jared Golden's office was also there today, but that was the only federal delegation representation that was there.
But we gotta make their pot hot.
Okay,
Dick and then Arthur.
I'm kind of on the outside looking in a little bit because I've been talking for a month or more with the electrical people involved with the project. In fact, I have the documents here. The electrical system has not changed on the ferry, the Mount Ending. I have the one-line diagram for the entire system on the ferry. Electrical system. I would like to continue to talk with the electrical people to be certain that there are no electrical impediments to Islesboro doing the charging of the batteries and everything else that's necessary for the ferry. So that doesn't become an impediment to the political, medical problems, emergency problems that have to be solved in a different way. But I can continue with this. If the board has no objection, I'm not causing any ripples. I'm talking to CMP and ABB, which is the management company for this whole operation. In fact, that's this document here. And they're located in Florida. They happen to be a European company. But nevertheless, I would like to be authorized to, doesn't have to be any more formal than to continue dialogue on an engineering electrical basis to be sure that Armstrong can do the project. So we can, I don't want somebody saying we can't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I think it's
I'm not
great.
making any commitments, I'm just saying, I want to know if there's any impediments
Right.
to
Yeah.
locating it here.
Yep, no, I mean, I think that is, all the investigation that we can do is great. And I would just ask that you stay in close contact with Peter Wilcox as the ferry rep too, because I know that they provide him a lot of information, and that seems to be DOT's fallback is, well, we're following our channels, we're talking to the advisory board, and that's so I just want to make sure that we're
I can be
aligned in our
active with the
communication.
advisory board as necessary if they have any electrical issues, either on the ferry or on shore. Let me know what they are. You know, I can comment on it. I'm looking at the cable under the bay, the CMP cable, which would have to provide the power, of course, to the ferry to charge the batteries at night, presumably, all of that.
Yeah.
I know pretty much what it is now, and I'm pretty convinced it's okay. We can do this without any problems. But you never know until you're waded into the swamp.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do.
Thanks. Arthur had his hand up, and then we'll go to you, Mike.
The one question I had, goes along with that. Has any of that grant money been applied to any future firefighting applications for if we were to have a battery fire, either shoreside or on the boat, as far as new equipment or, any of that state or government money been thought about for any of that?
Not that I can see, that's for sure.
Right, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that we got the grant application and grant award language from them, so that we
Yeah.
can see exactly what they promised and what the strings are that they're tied to with the money.
I mean, I could show you a YouTube video of just a small AA lithium ion battery that would, blow up. Pretty.
I think it's get off and watch it sink.
So, I mean, it's not something that, a battery fire is very, not a good thing to be near.
Yeah.
So.
And those could be that could be some of the hidden, DOT fallback.
Yeah, I mean,
Keep the conversation going to the chair, please,
I'm sorry.
rather than crosstalk, so we can all keep a track of it.
I'm just saying that's one of the hidden things that the DOT could fall back on is the reason or the rationale for Lincolnville. Because they have better fire, prevention, or more access to more.
Nothing will put out a battery trial here.
It's big ones, big ones, you have to snuff out the,
Thanks,
oxygen,
sir.
and many other things, yeah.
I think Michael has.
Michael?
Yeah, I think there's some good ideas here, but is there a central data point that we can create where people can put down or get all their stuff together so everybody can see the same stuff?
Right, so we are forming a subcommittee, like I said, and I imagine that sort of plan is where the committee is gonna be working, is kind of gonna be the central hub for what the plan is, for who's taking leads on different parts of the plan. And so, like I said, I'm hoping that first meeting will happen next Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm thinking something online, so like, for example, the letter writing campaign might be electronic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
One other question about this, other boat that they're looking into as the replacement part with, which is a $5 million cost at this moment, plus $2.5 million per year. The expression is, well, we'll save money because whatever, the ferries don't have to run at night and people can live at home and they don't have to be on the island. Well, who's manning this boat? And where are they getting the volunteer? How can they guarantee there's a volunteer who wants to live on this boat?
So, the DOT did say, they had nothing to do with the emergency, boat proposal that is, that was going to be based in Carver's Harbor. They were not part of that effort. They did allude to, an interest in buying, I heard an emergency boat. I didn't hear anything specific. It wasn't about how much money. It wasn't is it an emergency boat for each island? But it was clear that they would definitely still consider writing a check to make it somebody else's problem. And I think that was the most frustrating thing,
So it's
is
another
that
half-assed
it was,
solution.
it was a very vague.
They were gonna run it, and they said,
Right.
no, it's gonna be a private.
No, it was a vague plan that will allow them to save money and recruit more people. And that was one of the things that the legislators really pushed back on, is we need to see more of what you are anticipating for cost savings and all of that. Now, the other thing that Commissioner Van Note was clear on was, he seemed to feel like the municipality didn't have enough skin in the game money-wise when it came to EMS transportation. So I don't know exactly what that, I mean, if he expects us to pay more, if they would be willing to do emergency services, if we paid more per run, or if that was just his fallback to say, well, it's a municipal issue, and so the municipality needs to pay for any emergency transport. But that was, again, it was a vague statement that, so I do think another area of research that we really need to do is to look at all of the spending that how much skin we have in the game, and have that be another data point to fight back on the vague statements that he likes to make in meetings. I see MP's had her hand raised for a while, and then Michael, go ahead, MP.
Oh, okay. Somebody put this idea in my head. I'm just going to toss this out. Thinking back to when we had the Governor Brand, that boat, as I recall, was owned and operated by the town. And it wasn't until the Muskie came on board that we changed over to the state taking care of the ferries. And I wonder if there's anything going back to those days that, when we made this changeover, when we gave up our town vessel, and if there was any maybe an archivist or something, if there's anything in there that said, yeah, we'll go ahead, we'll let the state take over this route, but we do insist that the boat remain on the island sides. I don't know if that was ever put in any
I don't,
documents or any?
yeah, it's worth investigating.
Let's get a
Again,
second ferry.
Bruce did say if there, he's open to other ideas, that Casco Bay has the Casco Bay lines, it's a different structure. You know, I think if we were to say, we don't want DOT to run it anymore, he'd be happy to say, here, you go. Now, that doesn't come with money, I'm sure,
Doesn't come with a ferry.
right, I just, I think we need to define what we, yeah. Go ahead, Fred.
Vinyl Haven keeps their boat. They're keeping their boat because they have 2 boats.
Yeah.
So, let's keep 2 boats. So when this electric boat here gets here, let's have them do all the work they can with Maggie, and one of those boats is gonna stay on Ellsworth. They're already planning to build the electric one anyways. So all they gotta do is, and then you don't have to buy a medical boat, invest in that old boat or renovate a boat and leave one on Alsboro at night and then leave one in Lincolnville so they can charge it. That's how Vinyl Haven kept theirs, and it's not because of distance, because North Haven's not keeping theirs. So we can throw that right out the window. I mean, let's trim some fuzz here. You know,
That's kind of a good, I like that idea.
let's have 2 boats. Aren't we the big generator of revenue?
Yep.
Aren't we the big construction capital of the ocean?
Oh, sorry,
Yeah, you had a question.
sorry,
Now it's gone.
I'm so sorry.
I was just gonna ask, is it 50% of the revenue generated from tickets, 50% funded by taxes? That's how,
That's by statute how it's supposed to work, yeah.
Oh, my question was, how does it work when there's an emergency run at night? How is that handled financially? Does the town pay for that, or is that included in the overall? What's the deal? Is it on a per run basis? Is it an annual stipend?
It's on a per run basis, I think it's $1,200, I think. 1,700, is that what it is now? And for the ferry, for an emergency ferry run.
1,200.
I thought they kicked it up to 17.
That's the bill that we got the other day was $1,250.
Okay. And that bill comes to the town.
And that's over back, that's a round trip, I assume, because you gotta get back to the pen.
No, they don't wait for the patient. They take them over.
Right, you take the patient over and then they come back
Right.
to put in the pen, it comes back empty.
But sometimes at night they wait for, if it's an ambulance run, if the ambulance goes to the hospital, they'll wait for the ambulance.
Yeah,
to come
we've
back.
tried to
It
stop
depends,
that.
Yeah.
We've tried to stop that so that we're doing a turnover in Lincolnville at nighttime, because it's worked good for the ferry crew. They're still getting called out at night, but they can get back, and a couple times they haven't canceled the first boat because they got back early enough to be able to get some sleep. So it's been kind of a thing between the ferry crew and us that we'll flip in Lincolnville at night if they'll run for us, and the local crews have worked better with us. I don't have a problem with local crews. I think that, you know what I think. Say no more.
Brad, how many runs are there a year, kind of just as a ballpark?
It fluctuates. We had 39 runs 8 years ago, and this year we've had 7, I think. Then last year we had 17. And the reason we had 7 is because we've got our triage system down better. The problem is that we're taking people down over that incline on low drain tides, and I mean, it scares the heck out of everybody, the patient, us, I mean, everything. I mean, it's just.
All right, just the last couple comments and then we'll have to move on. I know Dory's had her hand up and then, Maggie, I see your hand next. Go ahead, Dory.
Thank you for all of your work on this very important issue. As far as the clinic is concerned, I mean, it is getting increasingly more difficult to recruit qualified providers, and without a ferry docked here on the island, increasing the time that it may take for a critically ill patient to get to the mainland if Life Flight can't come is gonna be a major detractor to recruiting anybody. I mean, we have the health center, the new health center coming, that's gonna be a great attraction, but Anyway, I did get an email today from Midcoast Villager reporter to discuss this topic, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Janet or Fred. I don't want to say anything without, I'm not the most well-informed. So I would like some suggestions on who to meet with this reporter. I think it's important for them to hear, our concerns. Just a couple of small tidbits, adding on to what Fred said, having a boat on this side is a great idea, even if it was just a small enough boat that it could accommodate, the ambulance, an old ferry or rehab ferry, and then make it more enticing for the ferry service to save money by providing maybe the housing. I mean, their expenses come from the housing to house the crew off island. Actively recruit more on island people to work on the ferry, so you don't have the cost of people staying overnight. And then they also pay a stipend for food and so forth. So make it more practical, less expensive for a crew to be on the island.
No, I mean, Swans Island representative said, if you let me have, if you could have help, if the state had a training program, I could have 6 people who would be willing to sign up as relief crew and get certified on Swans Island. And I'm sure the other islands are the same way, and it was just passed over.
Yeah, it's very concerning.
Yeah. I have, Maggie, and then Dick, you can have the final word.
Okay,
Maggie?
It's actually Dan. I've got Maggie's computer and I haven't quite figured out how to skip my name on there. Back to how the emergency runs are billed. You said it was $12.50. Is that $12.50 part of a 50-50 match with the state, or does that $12.50 cover the entire cost?
Well, that's labor, because after they run the ferry boat, don't they get paid for 6 hours overtime?
I'm not sure how many hours, but yeah, they get
6, I think.
a lump sum, which makes it somewhat enticing for them to do the run.
From whom though? The lump sum comes from whom?
Well, the state bills the town for the cost, but the crew gets not just the time that it takes to go back and forth, they get a minimum amount of hours.
one easy thing, I think, that the home port has to be named with the Coast Guard. And this, before a certificate of operation will be allowed. Now, I have no idea whether the home port on the future ferry has been named or not, but I'm gonna find out. That they have to name it, otherwise they don't get a certificate of it.
Yeah.
And that's right here.
All right, thank you all for that discussion, and questions. More work. Coming soon. Any other comments from the select board members? All right, then with that, I think we'll move on to the next.
Can I just say
topic.
thank you again to everybody for your comments and ideas and recommendations. I mean, we're all in this together, and it's really important that we do the best job we could possibly do. So, thank you.
Yeah. We need your voices.
Petition, is there any place for petition?
That's. Yep. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.
All right, sea level rise update, I don't really have, our next meeting is January 9th.
Oh, Brad.
Still riding.
Any questions on that? All right, municipal building project update.
I don't have anything on that. Steve, do you want to say anything about the Up Island Public Safety Garage?
You're on mute.
I'm consistently pathetic with that. So anyway, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Nothing other than, we had discussions, there's some talk about being able to bring in the electrical at a little less cost. We had a meeting with the architect and Lauren helped run me through the paces on that, but There's really not been any real substantive movement forward on it. Not that that's negative, but, just pulling together the numbers and the effort. So I think probably not next meeting, but the meeting after that, we should have some more concrete advancement on this and some details. I mean, Lauren, do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked to the construction manager, and the only bid that is outstanding, I think I reported it at the last meeting, is the electrical. He's working on that. I think Steve, one of the ideas is, can we have a placeholder amount for electrical and move forward? Or must we have all the bids, and a final, I think the answer is we need all the bids and we need a final figure, but that's one of the questions out there. Is there any way we can move forward without getting a final electrical bid right now?
Okay, so that's all I have.
Thanks. Any questions for Steve or Lauren?
Have you thought any more about the plumbing questions that came up our last meeting? Those questions about if there was any plan for plumbing. I was just thinking, if we're talking about requests for proposals for electrical work. So there could be discussion about plumbing.
Pete, can you
No,
say
yeah,
that a
Steve,
little louder?
I'm wondering if there was any follow-up from our discussion last week about the plumbing issue in the building, and just with you talking about the hypotheticals for the electrical system, I'm wondering if you've thought any more about the plumbing issues that Jordy raised.
Yeah, well, Chief Mert there, we had I had a good conversation with him the other week, bringing up the various plumbing requirements.
Yeah.
And he made it really clear on, what's needed and everything from and I wrote up a report on this, so I'll have to go back to it. But I think from a plumbing perspective, we're in good shape, other than finding out what the cost of the water tank from Jay-Z, is for that. But the slab, the discussions, the architect, the slab, they're putting the additional depth in for that. I didn't hear anything that wasn't spec'd properly or that was a concern. So did you have a specific, Pete, on that?
Yeah, hold on one second.
Because I don't have my notes in front of me because I'm not in, I was traveling to.
It was decontamination.
It was Jordy asking about decontamination showers, and the suggestion kind of being that it would be done at a private residence or another facility, but that maybe wasn't the ideal or theoretically acceptable solution to that. And it was just something that was brought up, and it was told that we'd follow up on it, and I just was curious where that was.
So we did. There are not going to be, in the initial design, there was not a design for shower areas within the facility.
Okay, is that something that is open for discussion or for future planning, or is that, are we kind of?
I think there's a lot of things that are open for discussion. And Lawrence has set a great base for this. The idea was, how do we get a facility set up that met the base requirements to house a vehicle, be heated, with water, that could take care of the island at the north end in a faster way. And so everything is based on the budget. So the budget the current situation is, we're moving forward until we get that electrical quote and we know what the final numbers are. The build is as they term it. And then, but we're not eliminating the ability to add additional, like a shower or something later, because the plumbing's coming in. So, I don't see that as a inhibitor to what we're trying to achieve there.
Okay.
But there were a lot of go ahead.
I have a clarification question.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there running water going to be in the building during the initial phase one of it right now? Or no? Because I was under the understanding that no, there was no running water to the building. Because that we had to pay for the well and everything else. And so, but now I'm,
There's
So
not
I'd be
going to
kinda
be, there's
confused.
not gonna be running water, there won't be a shower, there won't be a toilet. There is gonna be a tank, and that will be in place. And that will, in a sense, there'll be water in the building, but it
Okay.
won't be. And all the
Potable.
plumbing will be ready to go. We have the test pit taken care of. We know where the well is gonna be, we know where the septic's gonna be, all that's permitted, all that's approved. You know, we just have to make sure we have the money. That's
gotcha.
the only issue.
I had missed the part about the water tank going in. And so the last thing that I knew is that it was just gonna be a hot building with no water. And so that's good news. Thank you.
Arthur?
In the, I mean, this is gonna be on a concrete slab, so is all of the, like, shower or sinks or toilets that will be put in place or thought about being put in place, is that all gonna be put in the slab for the initial phase? Cause it's gonna cost twice as much down the road to dig it all up and put something in if it's not
Yeah,
done.
the radiant heating pipes will already be in the slab. They're planned for and they're gonna be in the slab. All of the conduits for plumbing and septic are already gonna be positioned. All of that will be ready to go.
Okay, all right.
Great. Any other questions on this topic? Nope. Mark?
Just an explanation on this tank. What the purpose of the 1,500 gallon tank in this building is what JT has as a acquisition piece of equipment that a local residents changed out for a different colored tank. And it was to utilize, if we don't have running water initially, I can fill it up with a fire truck, but it's meant to be stored water, not drinkable, for filling a fire truck back up when it is needed or used. And when we do get water physically in the building, then it can be automatically refilled for refilling the fire truck that gets empty from use.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the 1,500 gallon tank.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Mert, do you want me, I can't remember, and again, I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me. Do you want me to call Jay-Z and get a price on that, or do you have that, or do you want to get that? How do you want to, we should probably close that loop.
I don't know on the acquisition or purchase of the tank from JT and a little bit of plumbing, just make sure it don't leak when we fill it up. It needs a valve on the bottom end. We have to get a price from JT and see what funds we use to make that acquisition. Whether I pull it out of regular fire department budget, I don't think I'm talking big money. We can look at it at a little bit later point. When
Well,
the
how about-
building gets assembled, I wanna move that tank in there before everybody vacates the contractors.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you, in the next 2 weeks, maybe just ask him what he's thinking on the price, just so we can add that to the scope? And I mean, that should not come out of your fire budget. I would think that would come out of this building budget.
Yeah, well, I'll pester Jay to get a number out of him.
Great. Yeah, because that would be helpful. And then I think we'll get that electrical bid in the next couple weeks. So, all right, I'm done.
Great. Thanks. All right, moving on to upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports. We've got a planning board meeting January 6th, the harbor committee meeting January 16th. The Emergency Ferry Service Task Force, I'm hoping is going to meet on next Wednesday, the 8th. Any other subcommittee reports?
Looks like energy is the 14th.
Yeah, energy is the 14th and housing on the 16th as well.
All right, no town managers reports. I know Janet did include a couple of minutes from meetings in our packet, but I don't have anything else from her. No other correspondence, no old business, no new business, no other business. So we are down to approving warrant number 14 for FY 25.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor, roll call. Steve?
Steve, you're muted.
I see a hand.
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Lauren?
Aye.
Jay? Aye. Excellent. And then we have appointments. We have Peter Wilcox, Fred Porter, myself, Gabe Pendleton, Earl McKenzie, and John King, to appoint to this committee. Do I have a motion?
I don't see John King's. name.
No, sorry, it is written online.
Okay.
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Curious
Aye.
how does that committee come about? Who?
During
how are
our
they
last-
elected? How-
During our last meeting, we were talking about it and there are members of the select board or different committees that have previous experience in dealing with the ferry, especially with the last time that we had the tariff increases and that have inside knowledge with it. The meetings are public to attend, that they'll be posted by Janet, but those will be the appointed officials for it based upon their history.
So don't we want a different history since we're having so many troubles with the ferry?
No, I think we had a very successful history the last time that we had a committee that was appointed that made up with these people.
It's a long time.
And so with their inside knowledge with it, I think that they're the best people that are proving to be very proactive and knowledgeable with it. That also have inner workings that if they want to do subcommittee members in different projects, they'd be the best group of people that are knowledgeable in the situation.
We have people with state connections with departments and
Yes.
agencies, like executive level state connections.
I don't know necessarily exactly where their connections are. Do you have a state level executive connection?
I think we need to look for that really rapidly. And a
Right.
new route.
And I think
to
that any of our
address all
committee
this.
members that would be on this board would be great for it. And if you have a connection that would be able to work in with it, I think it'd be fabulous.
For Milesboro, we do though, that we need to get out like an emergency cry for people who have connections in certain departments in the executive body of the state of Maine.
Yeah, I mean, this,
Yeah, I think
this
we
committee
need
is
to-
not gonna be the only ones that are going to be working on this. We are going to pull in as many people as we can. This is going to be the group that is helping to coordinate the plan and help make sure that we're pulling in and utilizing the assets that we have. So helping to identify who has the strongest connections so that we can make as great an impact as we can. All right, I forgot we need a roll call vote for this. Steve?
Aye.
Yes. Pete? Lauren?
Aye.
Shay? Aye. All right. I have no further comments, although I appreciate everybody coming tonight and having a thoughtful discussion. Lauren?
Ditto that. I appreciate everybody here. Thank you.
I would triple ditto it.
Triple ditto.
Wish that it was under better circumstances, especially we got this kind of involved all the time.
Melissa? None? Steve?
Just want to thank the Burns family for having the best lighting situation and Christmas decorations that I saw.
Thank you.
And I just think it's great that they're contributing to the electric power grid payments for the month.
Even seeing him, that's for sure.
But it
All
really-
right.
Nice. Bye.
Motion, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope, goodbye.
Motion to adjourn, so moved. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye, y'all.
Wait till you come home and see what I put in your yard for you. So don't forget to sign this before you leave. All of them?
Thanks for filling in the blanks there.
Yes.
You know, the question is this, what does it take to change the tariff?